Ever been caught off guard by someone's rudeness and didn't know how to respond without losing your cool? What if you could shut them down instantly, without saying a word, without raising your voice, and without stepping out of character? In this speech, you'll learn the power of silent confidence, calm authority, and unshakable presence. It's not about clapping back, it's about commanding respect without confrontation. Let's redefine strength, starting now. Rudeness is often misunderstood. People assume it's personal, targeted, a reflection of how others see them. But in reality, rudeness is rarely about the person it's directed at. It's a mirror held up to the one being rude. It's a reflection of their emotional state, not a definition of yours. The key is to not absorb the projection. That moment when someone snaps, uses sarcasm, or disrespects you, it's not an invitation to spiral. It's an opportunity to anchor. When faced with rude behavior, most people instinctively react. Their body tightens, their voice rises, their mind shifts into defense mode. They feel the need to prove something, to stand their ground through confrontation. But true strength isn't found in matching rudeness with rudeness. It's found in control, not over them, but over yourself. Emotional regulation is the real flex. Being able to stay calm when someone else is trying to drag you into their chaos is a silent, powerful form of self-respect. Let's break it down. Imagine someone rolls their eyes at you in a meeting. You notice it, you feel the sting, but instead of reacting, you pause. That pause is where your power lives. In that split second, you decide who you are and how you want to show up. You're not there to compete with their negativity. You're there to remain aligned with your values. You're there to stay grounded. Rude people are often unaware of their behavior, or worse, they're said to getting away with it. What they expect is resistance. What they're prepared for is a fight. What throws them off balance is dignity. They don't know what to do when someone refuses to participate in their drama. That throws off their script. When you respond with clarity instead of emotion, they're left holding their own discomfort. This isn't about being passive, it's about being purposeful. There's a difference between avoiding conflict and mastering response. One comes from fear, the other from wisdom. You're not shrinking, you're rising above. You're choosing to manage your energy like it matters, because it does. The truth is, people who lash out often carry invisible battles. They could be dealing with stress, trauma, rejection, or fear. None of that excuses bad behavior, but it explains why it's happening. If you can see that, not with sympathy but with awareness, you can protect yourself without letting their energy infect yours. That's how you maintain inner peace in outer chaos. Every rude remark is a test. Will you match it and lose your center, or will you use it as practice for self-discipline? The way you handle those moments is how you build emotional muscle. It's where growth hides. Being unbothered doesn't mean you're numb. It means you've learned the difference between what deserves your attention and what doesn't. You've learned that not every comment needs a comeback, and not every disrespect deserves a reaction. Think of rude behavior as static noise on a radio. It's not your song, it's interference. You don't argue with static, you change the frequency. The same goes for conversations. When someone's tone turns sharp, you don't have to match it, you shift. You respond in a tone that's measured, intentional, and clean. That shift often causes them to recalibrate because people subconsciously adjust to the energy that's in control. And control doesn't look like yelling, it looks like calm. Sometimes people are rude because they feel powerless. They use aggression as armor. They hide their insecurities behind arrogance or sarcasm. The moment you realize this, the behavior stops feeling like an attack and starts looking like a symptom. And when you can see the symptom, you stop feeling responsible for it. That separation allows you to hold space, not for their behavior, but for your response. There will be moments when walking away is the best answer. Not every battle is yours to fight. Not every statement needs a rebuttal. There's strength in saying, I don't receive that with your presence alone. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate, and you reinforce your own self-worth by what you choose not to engage in. Protecting your peace isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Rudeness often tries to provoke reaction because it feeds on attention. It wants you to break your character, to match its level, to lose your cool. The moment you do, you hand over control. But when you hold your ground, you show that you're governed from within, not from outside triggers. That's the kind of energy that doesn't just silence a rude person, it transforms the whole atmosphere. Sometimes the most radical thing you can do is stay calm. Not for them, but for you. Because every time you do, you reclaim power that others tried to take. You remind yourself that your value isn't negotiable and your peace isn't up for grabs. You're not cold, you're clear. You're not distant, you're discerning. And you don't let rude behavior determine your identity or direction. Your energy is your responsibility. You don't owe anyone access to your emotions, especially those who try to disturb them. It's not about being unaffected, it's about being selective. You choose where your energy flows. That's how you stay above the noise. That's how you stay aligned. That's how you shut it down without ever raising your voice. Silence is often misunderstood in a world that glorifies quick comebacks and loud opinions. People are conditioned to believe that in order to win a confrontation, they must say something clever, cutting, or assertive. But the truth is, silence can be the most commanding response in the room. It doesn't beg for attention. It doesn't escalate tension. It simply exists with undeniable presence. And in that stillness, it carries weight. When someone is rude, they expect a reaction. It's built into the way they speak or behave. The sharp comment, the dismissive tone, the public jab, it's all designed to trigger a spark. Whether they're conscious of it or not, they're looking to pull others into their storm. They thrive on disruption. But silence interrupts that pattern. It halts the rhythm they were banking on. When you don't respond, when you refuse to take the bait, they're left confronting the discomfort of their own behavior. Silence isn't passive, it's deliberate. It's a choice made from emotional discipline. Instead of engaging in a back and forth that will only leave you drained, you opt for restraint. Not because you're weak, but because you know your energy is valuable. You know not every rude remark deserves the dignity of your words, and you understand that presence, true grounded presence, can be more powerful than any perfectly delivered clapback. There's a kind of silence that speaks louder than shouting. It's the silence that says, I'm not engaging with this, without needing to say it. It's the silence that allows you to maintain your composure while the other person unravels. And it's in that contrast that your strength becomes visible. The one who remains still in the chaos often holds the most control. Think of moments where someone disrespected you in a conversation. They rolled their eyes, muttered under their breath, or spoke over you in a tone designed to belittle. The urge to respond can feel overwhelming. But stepping into silence doesn't mean you freeze. It means you assess, you watch, you allow the pause to create distance between you and the emotion of the moment. That pause gives you the edge. Because in that space, you're no longer reacting, you're choosing, you're deciding what energy to give and what to withhold. People are often uncomfortable with silence. They mistake it for uncertainty or retreat. But those who've learned to use silence as a boundary know it's a skill. It creates space for others to hear themselves. It forces rude individuals to sit in the awkward echo of their own tone. Without your participation, their words hang in the air, unsupported. And often, it's in that emptiness that they realize just how loud and unnecessary they were being. Sometimes, the best way to correct someone isn't with a verbal retort. It's by offering no response at all. This doesn't mean you're suppressing your feelings. It means you're elevating your standards. You're not stooping down to meet someone in their emotional mess. You're choosing to stay rooted in your own self-control. Silence can be a shield. It can protect your inner peace in situations where speaking up would only ignite more fire. There's also a strategic aspect to silence. In conversations where emotions run high, silence gives you the ability to observe. You can read body language, listen more deeply, and identify whether a situation is even worth your energy. Silence allows for thoughtful response instead of reactive defense. And when you do choose to speak, your words carry more weight. simply because they weren't given away freely. In difficult moments, silence also gives others the opportunity to correct themselves. When you don't fill the space with defense or argument, they're left alone with the impact of their words. And that space, uncomfortable as it may be, is where self-awareness begins to stir. People sometimes realize the tone or intention they used was out of line only when met with non-engagement. Silence reflects behavior like a mirror, and mirrors don't lie. Consider how arguments tend to escalate. One person says something sharp, the other snaps back. The energy rises with every exchange until it's no longer about the issue. It's about the volume, the ego, the need to win. But if one person removes their energy from that cycle, the momentum dies. Silence starves the fire. It neutralizes the escalation. Not by surrendering, but by stepping outside of the emotional tug-of-war altogether. It's important to note that silence doesn't mean avoidance. It doesn't mean you never address problems or let people walk over you. It means you know when to engage and when to hold your ground without words. Some situations require you to speak up, to assert a boundary out loud, but others, they simply don't deserve your voice. They're better handled with calm detachment and a refusal to feed the tension. Mastering silence takes practice. It requires self-awareness and trust in your own presence. The first few times you use silence in response to rudeness, it may feel unnatural or even weak. But over time, you'll begin to see its effect. You'll see how it keeps you composed. You'll notice how people start adjusting their behavior around your stillness. You'll feel the strength of knowing that your peace isn't something others can provoke at will. There's a confidence that comes from being unshaken. When you don't need to prove yourself through reaction, when you can stay in your lane while others swerve around, you build a different kind of respect, both from others and from yourself. Silence in those moments becomes your way of saying, I know who I am. I don't need to explain it to you. So next time someone is rude and you feel that immediate spark to clap back, pause, breathe, let the silence speak first, observe what happens. Often you'll find that silence delivers the message far more effectively than words ever could. It doesn't just shut down the behavior. It changes the entire tone of the interaction, not by force, but by quiet authority. Not every confrontation requires aggression. In fact, the most effective way to shut down rude behavior is through calm, clear, and firm boundaries. This is where true power lives, in the ability to communicate limits without hostility and to maintain composure even when others try to disrupt your peace. Setting verbal boundaries is an art, and it's one that allows you to protect your energy while maintaining dignity. Many people believe that in order to be taken seriously, they must raise their voice, argue, or match someone's disrespect. But this only fuels the fire. Rude people often thrive on emotional reactions because it shifts the attention from their behavior to your response. Instead, when you use assertive and respectful language, you remove the fuel from their fire and shift the dynamic. You stop feeding the chaos and you take control of the moment without losing control of yourself. One of the most powerful things you can do when someone is being rude is to speak directly and calmly. A simple statement like, I'm not going to engage in this conversation if there's no respect, or let's continue when we're both able to speak respectfully, sends a strong message. You're not arguing, you're not attacking, you're stating a boundary, and you're making it clear that the conversation cannot move forward without mutual respect. These kinds of phrases are disarming because they introduce structure into emotional chaos. They bring accountability into a space where the other person was hoping for reaction. Verbal boundaries are not about controlling other people. They're about defining how you will be treated. They communicate your standards. They let people know what's acceptable in your world. And when you're consistent with them, people learn very quickly that you are not someone who tolerates disrespect, not through retaliation, but through refusal. That refusal can take many forms, from calmly ending a conversation, to choosing not to respond to passive aggression, to directly naming the behavior and stepping away. The power of verbal boundaries also lies in their simplicity. You don't need long explanations or defensive justifications. A short, clear sentence is often more powerful than a lengthy debate. For instance, when someone interrupts you repeatedly, instead of getting flustered or speaking louder, you can simply say, "I'd like to finish what I was saying." It's respectful but firm. It redirects the behavior without causing further tension, and it shows that you value your voice enough to protect it. Rude people often rely on emotional leverage. They use sarcasm, condescension, or volume to try and dominate the space. But when you respond with a clear, boundary-setting statement, you deny them that leverage. You don't play the game, you rise above it. And that shift in energy creates a subtle but undeniable shift in power. You are no longer on the defensive, you're leading the interaction. Tone also plays a crucial role when setting boundaries. You can say the right words, but if they're delivered with aggression or sarcasm, the message becomes clouded. The goal isn't to intimidate or shame the other person, it's to clearly assert your limits. A neutral, calm tone communicates confidence. It shows that you're not afraid, not reactive, and not available for drama. That neutrality can't be overstated. It's what gives your words weight. It's what makes the boundary land. Of course, setting boundaries doesn't guarantee immediate respect. Some people will push back. They may try to provoke you further, challenge your tone, or accuse you of being overly sensitive. But that's often a sign that your boundary is working. It's disrupting a dynamic they were used to. Stay the course. Repeating your boundary or calmly ending the interaction reinforces your posts. Idion, without escalating the situation. Consistency is key. Boundaries don't work if they're only used occasionally. If you allow rude behavior sometimes but react to it other times, people get mixed signals. But when you consistently assert your boundaries, you build a reputation. You become known as someone who is kind but firm, open but not permissive. That kind of clarity earns respect, and it often prevents future issues because people learn what you will and won't tolerate. There's also value in using boundaries to teach others how to communicate with you. Sometimes people are rude because they don't know better. They may have never been held accountable for their tone. When you calmly call it out, you're not just protecting yourself, you're also creating an opportunity for them to grow. It doesn't mean you're responsible for fixing them, but your response can serve as a mirror. And sometimes that mirror is what leads to a change in behavior. It's also important to trust your instincts. You'll feel it when a line has been crossed. That internal discomfort is a signal. It's your intuition reminding you that something isn't right. Don't ignore it. Don't explain it away. Use it as your guide to set a boundary. Whether it's in a professional setting, a personal relationship, or a brief interaction with a stranger, your internal radar is there to protect you. Honor it. Boundaries are also a form of self-love. When you speak up for yourself, you affirm your own worth. You show yourself that you're worthy of respectful treatment and that your peace is not negotiable. This has a cumulative effect. Every time you set a boundary, you strengthen your confidence. You begin to trust yourself more. You become less afraid of confrontation and more grounded in who you are. You may not always have the perfect words. You might stumble or feel nervous the first few times you set a verbal boundary. That's okay. What matters is that you try. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, it won't feel like confrontation. It will feel like clarity. You won't feel like you're defending yourself. You'll feel like you're standing in your truth. In the end, the goal isn't to silence rude people with force. It's to silence their impact on your peace through intention. Verbal boundaries allow you to navigate conflict with strength, dignity, and emotional maturity. They are a declaration that you value yourself enough to speak up, to walk away, and to stand firm without needing to fight. And that kind of quiet strength is the kind that leaves a lasting impression. Long before a word is spoken, the body has already begun the conversation. In moments where tension rises or disrespect surfaces, the way a person carries themselves often speaks louder than any sentence they could form. Posture, eye contact, facial expression, and stillness. These elements create an unspoken message that sets the tone for how others treat them. And when it comes to dealing with rudeness, Owning the room with body language can often shut it down before it even starts. People often underestimate how much is communicated without words. In emotionally charged situations, especially ones involving rude behavior, words may be ignored or twisted, but body language? That's harder to dismiss. The way someone physically holds their space can immediately command respect. It sends a signal that they are grounded, calm, and not to be pushed around, even if they haven't said a word yet. Start with posture. When someone stands or sits with their shoulders back, spine straight, and chin level, not lifted arrogantly but held neutrally, they appear self-assured. This isn't about puffing up the chest or trying to look intimidating. It's about being rooted, a balanced stance where the weight is evenly distributed and the body is still but relaxed, communicates confidence. It says, "I'm not here to fight, but I'm also not going anywhere." People who carry Taos. His energy are less likely to be targeted with repeated disrespect simply because they look like they know their worth. Eye contact is another essential part of this nonverbal conversation, not staring aggressively, not challenging, but steady and clear. When someone meets rudeness with calm, focused eye contact, they make it clear they are present and not shaken. Rude individuals often expect their behavior to intimidate or destabilize others. They're looking for the flinch, the downcast eyes, the nervous shifting. But when they're met with unshaken eye contact, it's disarming. It subtly communicates that their behavior has no effect, and that creates discomfort for them, not for you. Facial expression also plays a significant role. A neutral or calm face, not overly smiling, not tense, adds to the impression of control. A blank or unreadable expression paired with stillness can be incredibly powerful. It offers nothing for the rude person to react to. No visible frustration, no anger to latch onto, no discomfort to feed off of. That emotional neutrality becomes a kind of mirror, forcing the other person to sit in their own behavior. It removes the emotional reward they might have been seeking. Stillness in general is deeply powerful in moments of conflict. Fidgeting, pacing, tapping, or nervous gestures all signal anxiety and unease. On the other hand, a person who is physically still, who doesn't feel the need to fill every second with motion or noise, naturally draws attention. It signals composure. It shows they're not trying to escape the moment, they're fully present and not threatened. That kind of still presence often shifts the energy in a room without a single word. When someone is rude, they're often trying to provoke a specific kind of energy, either submission or escalation. If they can make someone shrink, they feel dominant. If they can trigger someone into yelling, they feel validated in their aggression. But if they're met with a presence that is calm, unshaken, and firm, it breaks their pattern. It introduces an energy they can't manipulate, and often that's all it takes to neutralize the moment. It's also worth mentioning spatial awareness. The way a person uses the space around them can either communicate vulnerability or control. Someone who takes up very little space, hunched shoulders, crossed arms, downward gaze, often appears apologetic or passive, which can invite more disrespect. In contrast, someone who stands or sits in a way that honors their full presence, not exaggerated but comfortably expansive, sends the message that they belong in that space. They are not intruding, nor are they stepping back. They are exactly where they're supposed to be. Breathing also factors into this nonverbal equation. Shallow, fast breathing signals stress and can lead to a loss of verbal and physical control. Deep, slow breathing regulates not only the nervous system but also enhances one's presence. In moments of confrontation, taking a silent breath, fully in, fully out, can be a way to reset emotionally and communicate poise without needing to respond verbally. That breath often becomes a buffer, a line of internal separation between the person and the provocation. It's not about pretending to be unbothered. It's about building a state where you are truly unaffected by rude behavior because you know it doesn't define you. That internal conviction then translates outwardly. When someone believes they are worthy of respect, it shows, not through arrogance, but through assurance. And people respond to that energy, sometimes unconsciously. They adjust their tone, they rethink their words, they second-guess whether their disrespect will land at all. In public or professional settings where verbal pushback may not be appropriate, body language becomes even more critical. A disapproving glance, a turned shoulder, a step back, these subtle cues can serve as boundaries. They signal that a line has been crossed without needing to escalate the situation. And because these cues don't invite dialogue, they often shut the behavior down more quickly and cleanly than words ever could. This kind of body language doesn't come from a place of ego, it comes from self-respect. It's the result of knowing that rudeness doesn't warrant a loss of control, that dignity doesn't require a defense, that you can be kind without being a doormat and strong without being aggressive. This balance is what leaves an impression. It teaches others how to engage with you by showing, not telling, what you allow into your space. Developing this presence takes time. It requires intentional practice, checking in with your posture, observing your breath, noticing your reactions in moments of tension. But with consistency, it becomes second nature. You start to walk into rooms differently. You stop trying to prove yourself. And without saying a word, people begin to listen. When you control your body language, you don't just shut down rude people. You shift the entire dynamic of the conversation. You introduce clarity where there was confusion, composure where there was chaos, and that shift doesn't just protect you in the moment, it empowers you for every moment after